Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new malicious compliance stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
First one is titled, Angry Neighbor and Village Codes. Edit, my village is called a village despite its size because it is incorporated as a village. It's called a village by Wikipedia. It's referred to as the village of XX. I call it a small town because it is outside of the top 150 cities, towns by population in my state. Background, I grew up in a very white-bread village, town of about 15k outside of a small city of 110k in Middle America. This came with all the petty little problems that come with small-town Midwest life. My twin brother and I would hang out around our best friend's house, and their neighbors loved to stir the pot and cause problems. I have two specific instances of MC with them, specifically the wife, Mrs. Nelson. I don't really blame her for being an angry person, to be honest. I probably would be too if I had to raise 4 kids while working and trying to go back to school. I digress. The summer before 7th grade, my best friend's family decided to put up one of those 3 to 4 feet tall inflatable pools. Our town has a code where any yard containing a pool must be completely enclosed in a minimum 5 feet tall fence. My friend's fence was only the regular 3-foot chain link fence, and the gate had recently been broken by the Nelson's kid. So, as soon as they put the pool up, Mrs. Nelson called the police because the pool violated code and presented drowning danger to her children. Mind you, they have a permanent above-ground pool that their kids swim in unsupervised all the time. The officer arrives and tells us we either need a taller fence or to get rid of the pool. Here's where the MC comes in. The code states that the fence just needs to be 5 feet tall, not contiguous, made of the same material, or good-looking. So, me and my brother went around collecting sticks while my friend and his mum went to the Fleet Farm to buy chicken wire and zip ties. We then spent the next hour zip tying the sticks to the fence and the chicken wire to the sticks, as well as zipping the gate closed. Mrs. Nelson is of course disgusted by this affront to her beautiful neighborhood, and calls the village again the next day. The same officer is sent out as the day before and lets the angry lady know that the fence is up to code, and that she should stop waste info officers' time with non-issues. This was not the first or last issue with her and her family, even in terms of malicious compliance, but this one is pretty funny and almost perfectly encapsulates my experience growing up in almost rural Middle America. Next one is titled, Sour Grapes, Said the Fox. This happened a couple of years ago when I was working part-time as a cashier in local supermarket. In our store, people would have to weigh their own vegetables and fruits. There was this one customer who would weigh his fruits and then add a couple more, trying to cheat the system. Finally, the store owner got enough of it and confronted the guy, telling him that he has to weigh each fruit he was going to buy, or, the owner said, he'd have to report him to the police. The guy was furious and left the store. We didn't see him for a while. Then, one Friday night just before closing hours, he came to my checkout with a sly look on his face. He was buying fruits, and a lot of them. Each apple and orange was weighed separately. Whatever, not a big deal. Then he put a single grape on the counter. Oh no, no. Surely he hadn't. Yes, he had. He had weighed each grape separately. He put them all on the counter one by one, and then he pulled out the empty branch where the grapes had been and put it on the counter too, at which point I couldn't help but to crack up. I was equal parts impressed and pissed off at his devious plan. Next one is titled, Pissing of the Chef? So you want no food at all? Edit, MRE means meals ready to eat. Pure disgusting stuff compared to real quality food. Back in the 80s, I was a cook sergeant during my military service. Our kitchen was run by a very old master sergeant, grumpy old bastard, old but with a lot of muscles. If you fucked up the meals, he would give you a nice paddling with a ladle or just throw something at you. Highest possible standard for food quality. Noting burned, everything as fresh as possible. Neither overcooked nor undercooked, and no slacking in the kitchen. Imagine Gunnery Sergeant Hartman and Gordon Ramsay had a child. That would be him. He could lift 225 kilograms, approximately 100 pounds in total, sacks of potatoes at once with one hand. And he was the oldest guy at the campsite and no one ever tried to mess with him. Why? Because of the food, and he had some background power. He knew everyone at everywhere. Was the buddy with very high-ranking officer across the country. One call from him could end or skyrocket your career. We had one unwritten rule: no unannounced drills for the kitchen staff or the conscripts helping during serving and preparation times so the meals would not be interrupted. We had our drills as well, sure. But they were always scheduled short after breakfast or late in the afternoon, after lunch. Meet the cast. MS, Master Sergeant. Limited, Officer of the Day. Me, minus 475 Tarkas the mutated Escalope. The Officer of the Day was a freshman, greenhorn, first week at our camp. A lieutenant right from college. Entitled piece of crap, no one liked him from start. Oh, we were prepping lunch for round about 900 people. 15 minutes until lunchtime. Just a regular day, nothing fancy, and everything went smooth so far. The buffet was set up all ready to go. We filled up all food stations when the Limited stormed into our kitchen. Limited, shouting, ABC alert. ABC alert. For US, CBRN or NBC, nuclear, biological, chemical attack. MS, confused. A. What's going on, Lieutenant? Limited, did I stutter or are you idiot deaf? I said, screaming right into MS's face, ABC alert. MS took a step back. Sir, yes sir. ABC alert, roger that. He points towards me and the other chefs. MS, okay boys, you heard the lieutenant. We are under attack by an undefined nuclear, biological or chemical threat. Limited, was grinning like a spoiled little child, seeing the old man bow before His Highness. MS rushes over to the gigantic tilting pans. MS, kitchen crew. Attention. All the food is contaminated and can't be served. Quote. Then he begins throwing all food on the ground. We were shocked for a second but followed his command as soon as possible. 900 meals, including salads and desserts, went in seconds to the ground or in the gutters. Limited, was shocked like a deer in a headlight. He couldn't say a word. He didn't even try to stop us. Or I didn't notice. After the carnage was done, MS went to the Limited and gave him the deadliest stare I've ever seen and whispers with his old but deep voice, be careful who you call an idiot. You didn't said that this was a drill. Or did you? We are maybe just the kitchen staff, but we are soldiers like you. We are trained to follow orders, react instantly, and not here to question anything. Now, Limited, tell me, what do we serve for lunch today? Limited, went pale and left without a word. MS went to his office and informed the Major about what happened. Lunch was instantly delayed for the entire camp and we gave out 900 MREs for that day. Me and the other kitchen staff got questioned about this incident next day, but we never saw this Limited again. Next one is titled, Sorry About Your Strawberries. I work in a food distribution warehouse for a national grocery chain. My job is to drive an electric pallet jack with a 3-pallet capacity around and stack boxes onto them in such a way as they can survive being shipped. All of us who have been there longer than about 30 minutes have learned that in order to do this, we have to group the cases roughly by size in order to make a manageable load. This usually means that the cases from one aisle get scattered across all 3 pallets. Well, the stores had this great idea that they should be able to bring one pallet out onto the floor and have only the cases that go in that aisle on the pallet to make stocking easier. A couple of our higher-ups, who hadn't set foot in the warehouse for more years than I've been working here, had this delusion that if we would only finish one pallet before starting the next, this request from the stores would be magically fulfilled. Now, they don't pay me enough to be able actually shop in these stores, but somehow I doubt there's a pasta, canned corn, peanut butter, pudding aisle, which is one of the many fascinating combinations you get when you try to stack things that way. But I digress. These higher-ups just recently passed down the finish the first pallet before starting the second idea as an official policy, and claimed that reorganizing the warehouse was phase 2, to come at some undetermined date in the future. In the meantime, if we don't want a write-up, we have to follow the policy. I was working in the produce section of the warehouse a couple days ago, and picked up an order that started with 2 thin, fragile layers of strawberries on the bottom of what was to be a 7-foot-tall pallet. This could be interesting, I thought, as I followed my headset's instructions to go to the next aisle. It was possible that the rest of the order could be light crap, like cut salads and mushrooms, so maybe things would be okay. I come around the corner and my headset directs me to the slot with the 36-pound cases of grapefruit, and cheerfully tells me in her little computer voice, pick 30. Say again? I asked. Bravo 67, pick 30. Quantity? Maybe I'd misheard. Quantity, 30. Pick 30. So, since the official policy was being strictly enforced, I took out my marker and a spare shipping label. I wrote sorry about your strawberries and put it on the pallet before dutifully stacking over 1,000 pounds of grapefruit on top of them. Then, because my headset is a malicious witch, she sent me to the 50-pound bags of carrots, and tells me she wants 6 of those on top of everything else. Watching those little cases of strawberries crush into jam was a fine reward for heaving another 300 pounds of carrots up over my head to cube out the pallet. When they called me into the office today to discuss my stacking choices, with the intent of writing me up for uncontained stupidity, mishandling product, I simply called up my union steward and pointed out the new policy. But the strawberries were ruined. Policy. Union steward shrugs. A 16-year-old stock girl almost hurt herself getting those bags of carrots down from the top of a 7-foot pallet. Policy. What about common sense? Where is it posted that an order worker's common sense trumps corporate policy? After much hand-wringing and sputtering, my supervisor finally asked, so what was up with the note? Me, I didn't want them to take it personally. I'm very curious to see how this new policy evolves in the coming days. Next one is titled, Just Be Observant. Working a cash register in the 90s. Boss complained that the store got a couple of chargebacks on credit cards that we had accepted. He told us that we had to be more observant and recognize clues that a card is being used fraudulently. We had to question anything that didn't look right. Future chargebacks would come out of our pay. Dunno if legal, but that was the threat. Me, how can we tell if someone is using a stolen card? Boss, just be observant. It was very soon after that, a lady was paying for her stuff with a credit card and I noticed something, so asked her for ID. She wanted to know why I asked. Me, the card says Mrs. Jane Doe but I don't see a wedding ring. She demanded to scream at my manager, and I could hear her tearing him a new one, yelling about how being in the middle of a divorce is difficult enough without it being thrown in her face by a stupid cashier. Scream, lawsuit, scream, media, scream, get her big friend to beat him up. That kind of thing. She leaves, he reappears. Shell-shocked. Boss, why the duck did you question her not having a wedding ring? Me, you said question anything that didn't look right, or the chargeback comes out of my pay. It didn't look right. I could tell he was searching for some way to yell at me for it, but he couldn't, so he just sighed, then said, be less observant. Last one is titled, Multiple MC in the Military. Some background, explanation for those unfamiliar with US Navy terms. LPO equals manager, usually E6 rank. WCS equals assistant manager, usually E5 rank. Chief equals department head, usually E7 rank. EOOW equals engineering officer of the watch. Basically guy in charge of all ongoing engineering operations that day. Sits in Central. Central or CCS equals place on ship where you can monitor alarms in the engineering spaces, 6 on my ship, and control certain things. Inspectors equals bunch of senior enlisted personnel, typically experts in their field and also outranked everyone in this story. GSM equals gas turbine system technician, mechanical. Consider the GSMs as one section, while the GSEs are another section. GSE equals gas turbine system technician, electrical. Division equals for this story, both GSM and GSE are in one division under chief, but we do slightly different work. We typically know each other's jobs and cross-train. quarters equals meeting every morning with your whole division to make sure no one died or is in jail, and to pass down instructions. 8 megacoulombs equals engineering PA system. EOSS equals book that walks you through how to handle any engineering casualties, like a fire. The story. So like I said before, we work together and cross-train, even though we're trained to do different things. It's common for us to borrow each other's junior sailors E4 and below, to help get work done and to cross-train them. Especially with a big inspection coming up, INSURV, we have trainers and inspectors on board to prepare for it, plus we just came in from a 10-month deployment and the ship is due for a few engineering overhauls. Enter new LPO for the GSMs, GSM1, he's usually pretty quick about taking my guys to help his, but hates it when we need help from his guys. He outranks my LPO and she's all buddy-buddy with him anyways, so often I'm left to do my work by myself or sneak 1 or 2 of my guys back in the afternoon to get work done and train them for inspections. This happens when my LPO is out on medical leave and I'm in charge of my guys. Monday morning, he grabs all my junior sailors without asking, so I'm left to do all the work myself. At some point during the day, I need help carrying a 75-pounds piece of equipment. I snagged one of his guys who was heading in the same direction anyways, and we haul this thing across the ship to CCS. GSM1 was in there shooting the crap with one of the inspectors, saw his guy helping me and decided to wave his dick around. Screams at me for abusing my rank, I'm an E5, a WCS and the other guy was an E3, and that I was too. Never ever ask a GSM for help ever again. A lot of our work involves working together. Literally. On the same equipment, just different parts of it. Tuesday morning, at quarters, GSM1 goes on a rant about how GSM and GSE do different things and we all need to train within our jobs for inspection, so there is to be no more sailor swapping. Fine by me. My guys and I go to our office, where there is no 8 megacoulombs, important for later. I walk them through the maintenance and inspection stuff for the week and decide that we're going to do maintenance on all the tank level indicators, TLI, on the ship. Much faster as a group, as there are about 20 of them and it's 30 minutes per. Part of this maintenance is having to notify the EOOW and coordinate if there are other maintenance work going on, since these will set off a constant alarm in CCS once disconnected, and if it goes off when we have contractors in the void where our tanks are, it can be a crap show. Guess who was the EOOW that day? So I come in with my guys, remember, training, waited in line to talk to him and try to coordinate. When I get to him, he starts screaming at me about how he made an 8 megacoulombs announcement for all the junior GS to start on filters in the engine room and where the duck were my guys, etc. I reminded him that just this morning at quarters, he had made it clear that we were to focus on our particular inspections and that filters were a GSM's responsibility, not us MC number 1, so the GSEs are going to work on TLIs today. I then proceeded to run him through the maintenance we were about to do and how it could impact him. GSM1, that's not my problem. That's a GSE problem. Me, well yes, it's our maintenance but the alarms. GSM1, GSE problem. If it's a GSM problem, I will handle it. Me, okay, is anyone scheduled to go in the void today? GSM1, that's for me to worry about. Me, okay, I'm going to grab a radio so that. GSM1, you're not standing watch. Only watch standers get radios. Me, yeah, but for this maintenance. GSM1, does it say on your maintenance card that you need a radio? Me, no, but. GSM1, then you don't need a radio. You do exactly what the maintenance card says. Do you need tag outs? Me, no, but the alarms. GSM1, if you don't need tag outs, stay out of central. Oh, he will handle GSM problems, we don't get radios, follow the maintenance card exactly and stay out of central if we don't need tag outs. MC number 2, 3, 4 and 5. Also, absolutely no one in CCS, including Chief and the inspectors, said a damn thing the whole time. I print out a maintenance card for the 4 of us, with a list of TLIs to do. This is not the norm, but I was doing it on purpose knowing it will make things worse for him. We followed the cards exactly. Nothing in the card says to notify Central. Usually we would have radios and tell Central exactly which tank alarm they are about to get. But we can't, so GSM-1 gets 4 tank alarms at once, and since he didn't bother listening to me, and there was nothing in the EOSS about tank alarms, he had no idea what to do. Also, the GSMs were rushing filters that morning so that they can shut off everything so that the contractors can go in. Mind you, he had INSURV inspectors in Central with him the whole time watching him. It wasn't until I was on my 4th TLI that he figured out what was going on and started yelling for me over the 8 megacoulombs. Well, my maintenance card doesn't say to stop, and this is sensitive equipment that I can't just leave lying open, so I take my time finishing up. My guys swing by to ask me what they should do, and I tell them to do what GSM-1 said, follow the maintenance card and meet me outside Central. I finished up, went to Central and stood outside the doorway. GSM-1 starts screaming at me about setting off alarms without telling him, messing up his plant, and that I need to fix this right now because the tank contractors refuse to go in until alarms are resolved. Oh, something about mast too, because insubordination or some crap. Reminded him that he had refused to give us radios, so I couldn't have notified him, refused to let me tell him about the maintenance because it's a GSE problem, that I was not to enter Central unless I needed tag outs, see, I'm outside, and that the tank contractors were a GSM problem. Me, I was following all the orders you gave me, GSM-1. Finally, Chief speaks up, she's right, you know. She was following your orders exactly. GSM-1 turns bright red, mouth opening and closing, making some very concerning noises, staring at Chief. Chief stares back for a very long minute, then walks out, grabbing me and the other GSEs and marched us all to the nearest engine room. As soon as we're inside, he starts laughing so hard he was curled up on the floor. To cut a long story short, Chief told me I was in a hole, to never let that happen again, and that from now on, I was to report to and listen to him, and only him, MC number 6 for the rest of that inspection period. GSM-1 had to redo his EOOW qualifications per the inspectors and was given extended training on communication etiquette. He was also not allowed to use any of my guys anymore, so the GSM's work doubled and I had extra time to train my guys. Thanks for listening.